Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 4. In this lesson we're going to be learning about the different types of lenses that come on the back of some more advanced iPhone models. Let's get right into it. So the latest iPhone models come with multiple lenses at the back of the iPhone. For example, the iPhone 11 Pro comes with 3 lenses. It has the standard wide-angle lens, which is the 1x, it has the ultra-wide-angle lens, which is the 0.5x, and it has the telephoto lens, which is the 2x. Now, depending on which iPhone model you have, you may only have 1 or 2 lenses, and that's perfectly okay. I personally have the iPhone X, which only comes with 1 lens, and if you do only have 1 lens, it is going to give you less creative control. However, you can still take some really awesome photos with just 1 lens. But if you do have more than 1 lens, then how do you choose which one to use? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson. And credits to iPhone Photography School for providing today's footage, as I didn't have access to an iPhone 11. So let's start by opening the camera app, and by default it opens the 1x view, and that means that I'm now using my 1x, my wide-angle lens. Now if I want to get closer, let's say I'm interested in framing that church in the background, I can tap on 2, and now I'm going to go to my 2x view. And as you can see how much closer we are to the church. On the other hand, if I want to get farther away, I can tap my finger on the 0.5 icon, and now I'm at my 0.5, my ultra-wide angle lens, and you can see how much further away we are from the church. Now there's another thing you can do here when you're switching lenses. So if you tap and hold your finger on the 0.5x, you'll see this dial appear, and now I can choose various levels of zoom. So let's say I pick 1.5x. Now I'm kind of zoomed in, but I'm not quite at my 2x. I'm in between my 1x and my 2x lenses. So that way you can actually get any level of zoom that you want on your iPhone camera. However, there is one problem. My iPhone only has 3 lenses, 0.5x, 1x, and 2x. And if I select any other level of zoom, I'm actually zooming in digitally, which essentially means that I'll be cropping the image. So at 1.5x, I might get the zoom level I'm looking for, but I'm going to get a significantly worse picture quality. For this reason, I don't recommend that you use the digital zoom function. Instead, just stick to the built-in lenses to your iPhone, which are the 0.5x, 1x, and 2x. So now you know how to switch between the different lenses, but when should you use each one of them? The type of lens that you select greatly affects how objects appear in your photo. Specifically, by choosing a different lens, you can actually change the relationship between the foreground and the background of your image. Now this sounds quite complicated, but the easiest thing I can do is simply show you what happens if you take the same photo using the different types of lenses. I'm going to start by switching to my 0.5x, and using my 0.5x lens, I want to frame the shot where I have the church in the background, and also on the right hand side I have this building. And I want to frame the shot in such a way with the scene, so I'm going to go ahead and take a picture. So this photo was shot using my 0.5x. Now we're going to take a few steps back, and I'm going to switch to my 1x view, and I'll show you what that looks like in this scene. Okay, so now that we've taken a few steps back, we can frame the exact same shot, and you'll see that on the right hand side, the building is still the exact same size. So it's just as big as in my previous shot. But now we took a few steps back and we switched to the 1x lens, and you're going to notice that on the left hand side we once again have the church, but this time the church is already bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and take this photo as well. And now for the sake of demonstration, we can head back even more to show you what that looks like using the 2x lens. So now if I once again frame up the same shot, you're going to immediately see how much bigger the church is. Now this time we have to be a little bit more careful with how we frame the shot, because we have this pole on the right hand side. So I don't want to include that in the photo, it's a distraction. So I'm going to carefully frame the shot and take the picture. And now if we compare the 3 photos side by side, you'll see that by using the 0.5 lens, the ultra wide, the church in the background is really tiny. You can barely even see it. At 1x, the church is already a little bit bigger, but it's still quite small. But when I switch to the 2x, you'll see that the church is now really big, and it's an important part of my composition. And obviously I like how the church looks in this frame, and so the 2x photo is my favorite one. So what was just demonstrated is called compression, and essentially what it means is that as you go to a tighter and tighter focal length, In other words, as you go from your 0.5x to 1x to your 2x telephoto lens, what happens is that the background of your photo starts to become closer and closer. So basically, if you're using the telephoto view, the 2x view, you'll be literally taking the background that's far away and bringing it closer to you. So in other words, you're compressing the scene. You're making it appear as if different objects are closer to each other than they actually are. On the other hand, if you're using the ultra-wide, the 0.5x, you're actually stretching out the scene. You're going to create a photo where the background is really, really far away from the foreground. And that's why in the 0.5x, the church in the background is so small. Now what we just showed you is very powerful. These three photos are so different from each other, it's almost hard to believe. The human eye doesn't work like this. You don't have different lenses in your eye, so you can't really see anything like this with your eyes. But when you're taking photos with the iPhone, if you have more than one lens, then you do have this type of creative control over your photos. So the next time you're taking a photo, don't just think about, do I need to get farther or closer? That's not how you should be choosing the right lens. Instead, you want to think about how you want to show the photo and what kind of relationship do you want to have between the background and the foreground. Do you want the background to be prominent, like we wanted in this case? If so, go for the 2x, the telephoto view. And that is going to bring the background closer to you. It's going to compress the scene. It's going to create the kind of photo where everything appears closer to each other. And in a situation like this, where we have a church tower far away that we want to include in our composition, the 2x lens is the way to go. Or what if you want a different kind of shot? What if you want a photo where the foreground is really prominent and the background is far away and it doesn't need to stand out? In that case, you want to use one of the wide-angle lenses, either the 0.5x or the 1x. And when you use these lenses, the background is going to be so much smaller and it's not going to stand out as much in your photo. So your wide angle, your 1x view is the default lens, and it's probably the lens that you're going to be using most often. This is a great lens for all sorts of photography, especially things like landscape and architecture. It is still a wide angle lens though, and if you're going to be shooting portraits, you might get a slightly distorted look on the face of your subject, especially if you get closer to them. So because of that, your 1x, your wide angle lens, is actually not a great choice for portrait photography. It is, however, a great choice for night photography and for low light because this lens actually performs better than the other two lenses when the light is limited. Now your 2x. Your telephoto lens is probably the second most useful lens on the back of your iPhone, and there are a lot of reasons to shoot 2x. For example, the photo we just took with the church in the background, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't have the 2x, if we didn't compress the scene together to bring that background closer. And it turns out there are a lot of situations like that, and it's not just street scenes or architecture like we're shooting now. The same tends to happen a lot in landscape photography, especially if you have mountains in the background and if you want to bring those mountains closer and make them appear larger. Also, the 2x lens is great whenever you need to physically get closer. For example, if you're taking photos of close-up details or if you're doing street photography and you don't want to be noticed when you're taking photos of strangers. And finally, the 2x lens is a great choice for portrait photography because that 2x is actually a more natural perspective than the 1x, the wide angle. And when you're taking photos using the 2x, you're going to get a more natural, more pleasing looking portrait photo. And finally, the 0.5x. This is probably your most creative lens. The chances are you won't be using it as much as the other two, but it is nevertheless a great tool for showing the kind of photos you wouldn't be able to capture otherwise. With this lens, you can really get into a lot in the frame, so it can be useful for landscapes. But this lens tends to really shine where you're shooting architecture indoors. So if you want to take a photo of your apartment and if you want to list it for sale, then 0.5x lens is the one you're going to use because using this lens, everything is going to appear so much bigger. And this is actually what most real estate agents do. So that's it for this lesson. I know this lesson was a bit more technical than others, but I hope that you've learned about the different types of lenses and the relationship between the foreground and the background. As always, I encourage you to get out of your seat and apply what you've learned in this lesson to your photos today. Try taking some close-up subjects to blur the background and subjects a little farther away to blur the foreground. I'll see you in the next lesson. We'll be learning about portrait and landscape photography. As always, have a great day.